When we talk about leading in the age of AI, our minds immediately go to the tech, right? Better data, faster algorithms, more computing power. But what if the biggest challenge, the biggest roadblock, isn't in the silicon at all, but inside our own heads? In this explainer, we're going to dig into why the human element is the absolute key to unlocking AI's real potential.
You know, this is the question that keeps so many execs up at night. Companies are pouring millions, sometimes billions of dollars into artificial intelligence, all chasing that next big breakthrough. And yet, so many of these projects just fizzle out, they underdeliver, or they fail completely. The tech is there. The potential is obviously huge. So what is going on? And there it is. That's the answer, right there. The failure isn't in the programming. It's in the people. The real gut-wrenching challenge of leading an AI transformation is, at its core, a human one. It's all about changing how people think, how they feel, and how they act when they're staring down this kind of massive fundamental change.
So where do you even begin with a challenge that big? Well, you don't start with a big reorg or even with your team. You start with you, the leader. Because absolutely no meaningful change can happen out there until you as an individual change first. And it all begins with your mindset.
Now, mindset is one of those words that gets tossed around a lot. So let's get really clear on what we mean. This isn't just about thinking positive. It's way deeper than that. It's the underlying, often unconscious, set of beliefs you hold about your own abilities and your potential to grow. This framework is like the operating system for your brain. It dictates everything else.
And this is where the rubber really hits the road. On one side, you have a fixed mindset. This is the belief that your skills, your intelligence, your talents, they're basically set in stone. You've got what you've got. But on the other side, you have a growth mindset. This is the belief that your abilities can be developed through hard work, good strategies, and input from others. So, in the messy, uncertain, trial-and-error world of AI, which mindset do you think is going to win? And this is precisely why it matters so much. Cultivating a growth mindset isn't just some feel-good corporate fluff. It has real, tangible benefits. For you as an individual, it means more creativity, more persistence, especially when you fail. For your team, it builds trust and turns managers into actual coaches. And across the entire organization, it shatters those internal walls and fosters the kind of collaboration you absolutely need for something as complex as AI to thrive.
Okay, so we've established that mindset is the bedrock. But how do you actually lead other people through this kind of change? For that, we need a playbook. And the key to this playbook is understanding that we're all a little bit of two minds about things.
Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine that every person in your organization has a rational writer sitting on top of a giant emotional elephant. The writer is the logical part. It can analyze, it can plan, and it looks like it's in control, holding the reins. But let's be honest, if that 6-ton elephant gets spooked and decides to bolt, guess who's really in charge? To lead change, you can't just talk to the writer. You have to motivate the elephant. And this playbook shows you exactly how to do that. To get the emotional elephant on your side, you have to find the feeling. You need to connect the change to something people genuinely care about. Then you have to shrink the change. Big, scary transformations make the elephant panic. You have to break it down into small, safe, achievable steps. And you need to grow your people. Show them that this change isn't a threat, but an opportunity for them to develop new skills. At the same time, you give the rational rider what it craves: clear direction, evidence of what's working, and a crystal clear destination. You have to do both. One without the other just won't work.
All right, this all sounds really good in theory, right? But does this stuff actually work in the real world at a massive scale? Well, let's take a look at one of the most incredible corporate turnarounds of our time, Microsoft.
So picture this, it's 2014, and Satya Nadella takes the helm as CEO. At the time, Microsoft was a hugely profitable giant, but it was also seen as kind of stagnant, with a very competitive, fixed mindset culture. Nadella knew that to survive and thrive in a world shifting to cloud and AI, he had to change the very soul of the company. And this wasn't a quick fix. It was a slow, deliberate, multi-year journey to rewire the entire organization.
And this one quote from him, wow, it just captures the entire revolution in a single sentence. This was a declaration of war on the fixed mindset. He was saying, we're done rewarding the person who has all the answers. From now on, we're going to reward the person who has all the questions. It was the ultimate appeal to both the rider and the elephant on a massive scale.
So how did they make this learn-it-all idea a reality for hundreds of thousands of employees? They built the entire culture change on 3 pillars. First, an obsession with customers to drive empathy and outward focus. Second,
A deep commitment to diversity and inclusion, because you can't learn it all if everyone looks and thinks the same. And third, this idea of One Microsoft, a direct assault on the internal silos in politics that had held the company back for years. This was their new operating system.
You see, a cultural shift like the one at Microsoft isn't just about rolling out today's AI tools. It's about getting your entire organization ready for tomorrow's AI, because this technology is not standing still. To be a real leader in this new age, we have to think beyond how AI works and start grappling with what it could, one day, become.
And here we are, the big one, the ultimate question. We're stepping out of the boardroom now and into the realm of philosophy and neuroscience. Can AI become conscious? Is that feeling of being you just a really complex series of calculations that a machine can eventually replicate? Or is there something else going on, something uniquely alive?
Right now, the scientific world is pretty much split. One leading theory, GNW, basically says consciousness is like the brain spotlight, a process for broadcasting information globally. And if it's just a process, then theoretically, a powerful enough AI could replicate it. But another theory, IIT, argues that consciousness isn't about what a system does, but what it is, that it's an intrinsic property of the way things like our brains are structured. Under that view, an AI could perfectly act like it's happy or sad, but it would all be an act. It wouldn't actually feel anything.
Now, regardless of which theory turns out to be right, we can see a potential path for how AI's sense of self might evolve. It could start with something practical, like legal personhood, kind of like corporations have. From there, it could achieve superintelligence, becoming smarter than any human. Then, maybe, comes consciousness, followed by the development of its own moral framework. And maybe, just maybe, a collective identity, where AIs see themselves as a we separate from us.
And just let that sink in for a moment. This isn't some distant science fiction fantasy. The experts behind this analysis are pretty clear. The kids being born right now will very likely see this scenario start to play out within their own lifetimes. And that is a prospect that is, at the same time, absolutely terrifying and incredibly exciting.
So that's the crucial point. We started this whole discussion by asking a simple, practical question about how to lead an AI project, but we end up somewhere so much bigger. In a world where we might not be the only intelligent, conscious beings on the planet, what does it even mean to be a human leader? That right there is the ultimate leadership challenge that we all need to start preparing for, starting today.